Hello and welcome to JoyRide with your hosts, the Metaphysical moms, Tiffany and Carrie. JoyRide takes you on a spin through all things spiritual and soulful, including holistic healing, energy work, and personal development. Now, here are your hosts, Tiffany and Carrie.
Hello, dear.
Oh, every week we say, it's a new week. Every week we say, we've been trying to work these bugs out. And every week there's a new bug. We just squashed it.
That's life, though, right? That's why this is a joyride. We take the bugs, we roll with them, we just have fun. Welcome to everybody who is joining us on Facebook Live, or later if you're joining us on YouTube. Thank you so much for stopping by the Joyride show. We're glad you're here. We are the Metaphysical moms, Tiffany
And Carrie.
And today we have every show is amazing, but we have a really amazing show because our guest is just phenomenal. We're all in love with Miss Bonni McCliss joining us. She's joining us over the phone from her home in Tennessee. Hi, Miss Bonni.
Hello, Carrie. Hi, Tiffany. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I always wanted to be with the Metaphysical Mom.
You are a Metaphysical Mama.
Please. You helped get this thing rolling. You helped us buy the bus.
You're going to have to tell the story of that.
I think we're starting a trend.
I love that. I do. I love that. We have, all right, so back in, and I have no concept of time. So back in, we had to look it up, 2014, another mother at our school had said something about this person. She's coming to town. You need to meet her. And before that, you and I had our first phone call. I scheduled a date with you. And you told me, I don't know if you remember this, I'm sure you don't because you speak to thousands.
Oh, I do.
You do not. But this is,
You're
told
unforgettable.
me that you said people will come to your, quote, kitchen table. When things get, the world is going to get a little wonky and people are going to be scared and they're going to be looking for answers. And they will come to your kitchen table. So about 2 years after that, I woke up one day with this, we need to podcast because Tiffany and Kira used to come to our house,
sit around the table,
and we would talk about all this stuff. And so this whole show was based on the platform of the kitchen table.
So we would call it tea time. We'd all sit around and talk about all these metaphysical experiences we were having, and this happened to you, and what are you feeling, and what energy, and what classes and workshops and books, whatever. And it developed into let's record this, let's make this, and now it's become Joyride. So Bonni, you're responsible for this.
You are responsible, or maybe she's psychic.
You saw it. Maybe she's psychic.
I don't know about that, but I am honored to be part of the grassroots.
Oh man!
So we need to.
That gave you the idea.
Yeah, we need to introduce you, Bonni. She's an internationally known evidential clairvoyant, a psychic medium, a certified hypnotherapist, and you combine all of those elements to really help people with your intuitive abilities to be a spiritual healing, a spiritual advisor, a life coach, trainer. Really help people see things in another way. And you have just written a book, which I'm so excited. I read the sample on Amazon and, of course, instantly had to hit the buy now Kindle version because you left us in a cliffhanger on this ghost haunted, and you were called in and you're talking all about perspective. And so, of course, you have to click buy now. So your book that has just come out literally in the last couple of weeks, right?
I think it came out last
That's right.
Thursday.
Yeah, I'm so excited. It's been a long time, kind of a life medley. That's what this is.
Yeah, it's The Other Side of Normal, a survival guide for living in the intuitive age. And it is now available on Amazon, and I think you're just now getting it out books on print, so you can get a hardcover too. So
I want a hardcover.
I do too. I love a page book.
But you have to sign it though. I mean,
Yeah.
when you come visit us again, you have to
course.
sign it. So it is. There's just so much. I don't know where to start. I mean, I don't know if we start with your backstory because it's phenomenal and it's heartbreaking and beautiful all at the same time. And I mean, you're just kind of scratched what all she does. I mean, she I've been with her on a few different things. I mean, we look for ghosts, we talk to ghosts, she's doing TV, she's just does all kinds of fun stuff.
Yes.
So anyways,
I don't know where to start either. Like there's so much that people kind of probably start yawning halfway through my introductory.
No, nobody's yawning.
Right,
Only because they're
it's a medium,
tired.
There's a life coach, and she can hypnotize you. So there is so much, and it was so hard to write my childhood. It was so much harder than I thought. When you think, well, I've got this figured out. I've healed from this, and let's move forward and use it as a teaching model. But I have to be honest, when I started putting it all down on paper, I just like, this is pitiful.
This is pitiful.
This is pitiful stuff. However, I know I'm not the only one. When it comes to people that are, really psychic or or empathic, even people with mediumship abilities, I've seen a pattern. And the pattern is that they have this kind of wounded healer training. They have this, they come in so sensitive that they're just these wallflowers, these, wallflower children. And so I like to term my childhood as my own individualized boot camp.
Yes.
So it's and again, so many people, go through this similar boot camp.
I don't know. No. Hold on. I want to back up and I just absolutely cut Tiffany off here. That is not a boot camp. It is not. I mean, my kids go through things and they feel and they're empaths. What you went through was, and since you wrote it, I know it's out there, but to be, I mean, they put you in a psych ward and they didn't know that you were seeing these people and you were having these experiences and all you could do is tell them because you were affected, and then they thought you were crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they put you on meds, heavy doses of meds, and then they put her in a high school that ended up being a cult, and not high school, but I think it was high school. Was it high school?
Junior high, maybe.
Oh my God. Okay, so let's start there. So what did you see? I mean, what do you remember seeing first? I mean, I love the story about the pledge when you saw the guys.
Right. Well, if we went back to the beginning, and this is just my earliest memories that I can actually, really retain. I remember laying in my bed, and I would see what looked like the northern lights would hover over my bed. And I mean, this wasn't once or twice. This was like, every other night. And I would tell my mom, and she was, like, it's okay, it's angels, or you're dreaming. And, so I wasn't scared because she didn't start off with, something's wrong with you, of course.
Right.
So that's kind of where it began. And it was, as I look back, this had an intelligence to it. It didn't have a form like a spirit or even a spirit guide. It was just an intelligent energy. And it was loving. I cannot, communicate that to people enough. Like, it was so loving. Who wouldn't want to have that exchange? And so as I got older, I developed a very extensive problem with having imaginary friends. And, my mother, God bless her soul, she did the best that she knew how to do with what I popped out. But I had all of these friends. And one of the funniest things that my family just won't let me forget is that I was literally kicked out of preschool because of this. I had to have a chair next to me at all times that was empty for my, imaginary friends to sit in. And one day, a little boy sat on top of my imaginary friend, and this sweet little wallflower, which is me, shoved him to the floor because he sat on my friend Emily. Which, that's not a flag yet. That's just kids have these imaginary friends. But it was so prevalent that my mom was like, okay, I'm starting to get a little concerned. And she had the brilliant idea of embodying these imaginary friends in a doll. And, we didn't have a lot of money. Cabbage Patch dolls were all the rage. That's the only thing I wanted to aspire to have in my life. And so she made them on her sewing machine, which I think is really cool.
She made a potato
and
doll.
And it just, it didn't slow it down. So in the book, I talked about, a specific experience where I know a spirit interaction really affected my life in a big way. And that's when I was around, I want to say 4 or 5 years old. We were living in a really old house. And I was on my bed reading. And this woman, I mean, it's like out of a movie. She was dressed in black in a period time clothing, came in, and she was very stern and angry. And my immediate reaction was just like fear, like, what is this? And she was kind of yelling, like pantomiming. And I just kept having this flash in my head, fire, fire, fire. And she helped me understand, just touch the wall, touch the wall. And when I touched the wall, it was, super hot. And I ran to go get my mom and, tell her the wall's hot. But, I got in trouble for lying all of the time and making up stories. So, she was like, no way. Anyway, long story short, she finally came in there and saw the wall was hot and was actually on fire in the inside of the walls. She called the fire department.
You said there was a heater, electrical outlet, or a heater, electrical
it
problem
was a
on the other
heater
side.
it was a heater in the bathroom. It was an old house. Again, we didn't have a lot of money, and it had just tripped and set fire inside of the walls. Again, I'm a very spacey child at this point, in and out of other worlds and imagination and all of that good stuff. And then my mom, who was a deep sleeper, I just don't know what would have happened, without that kind of intervention. So that was a turning point that really sticks out in my mind. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is my calling. This is what I'm here, to do. I really, really love, interacting with the other side. It drove me closer to that side, I guess is the best way to say.
Now, did you tell your mom a spirit had given you that information? Like somebody?
You know what? I didn't.
No.
I didn't. At this point, I can't stress enough. I got into a lot of trouble for making stuff up. Like, I wore this poor woman out.
So, okay.
And so, no, I didn't tell her.
Yeah, well, you're 4 or 5. You can't discern that either at that point about what's appropriate or not.
I was just afraid of getting in trouble for lying again.
Sure.
Well, is this in your family? I mean, usually there's a grandmother, a great-grandmother, there's someone that has exhibited these different gifts before this.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I've asked myself that so many times because, honestly, there's a lot in my family line, especially on my mom's side. There have been many women that have struggled with depression, anxiety, being high-strung, mental illness, things of that nature, which, as I look back, it's heartbreaking because I wonder, I'm like, wait a minute, this was just undiagnosed.
Right.
People didn't talk open like they do now. Even when I was a kid, this was still kind of taboo, actually. And so I do think it runs in my family. I just think it was, psychic undiagnosed for a long time.
So you had said at one point that and I know this may be out of sequence, but that the guys in the black coats and the bowler hats, I've seen that guy. He was watching in on me once when I was small, and I've told that story 1,000 times, and I'm sure you and I have talked about it, but I can't remember. Who are they?
Good question. So when they put me on all that medication, I kind of fell from grace in a way. Like, I didn't get all of the lovely beings and the angels and the opalescent lights. All that stopped happening. Mm-hmm. And what happened is I felt like I moved into another dimensional experience. And they were, of course, saying that this was hallucinations. Some people call them watchers. Mm-hmm. Some people, I never was harmed by them. They would just stand there and watch. And this is found a lot in ET phenomenon. But they will just watch, and they typically will find and be drawn to very, very psychic children. So some people will ask me, is this chicken or the egg? Did you start with psychic and, they found you, or, were they tracking you all along and, caused the psychic? So I think that they're just kind of like the undercover journalists. I don't know. They felt like they were just watching and observing and taking in information. And they didn't come just once or twice. I mean, they came very, very, very often. Wow. And is one of the things that would, leave me just scared to death. I would run out of my room and just lay in the hallway, because I didn't know. They didn't do anything. They just stared.
That's what mine did.
Unnerving, though.
He stood.
For a young person to be watched. A young girl be watched by a man, too.
Well, yeah. I was probably 9, and I was flipped in my bed, and my head was where my feet are, and I looked outside, and I looked down, and I see this guy, and he's up against the door, or up against the house, and he's looking up at me, and I just remember I froze. And it's terrifying. It's like, okay, there's a man out there, and I can't see. I mean, I'm blind as a bat even then, and so the fact that I could see him was interesting. And I asked my mom a year or two ago, I said, do you remember that? She said, yes, because it freaked me out that there was some guy hanging around the house. So
she remembered. Well, that's fantastic. At least,
validating.
Yeah.
Well, and then, and I have a friend of mine that just randomly, I asked him, I said, have you ever seen this guy, bowler hat, long trench coat? He's like, oh, yeah, you've seen him? Why did you ask me that? So that's when I realized a lot of people have seen him.
It's a pretty common phenomena, I guess you would call it. I mean, a lot of people report seeing that.
Oh, so let's go back.
Right.
So where do you want to go? Okay, so you were 5, you had this person basically saved you guys, and then it just got I'm not saying worse. It just got stronger, it seems, as you got older.
Well, it wasn't going away,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it started getting judged.
It wasn't going away, and I actually remember the day. You know, when we talk about the men in the bowler hats, honestly, and I didn't write about this in the book, so this is just a JoyRide exclusive. But they would these men in the bowler hats would show up all the time. They would they felt more physical. Okay, so they had almost like a human kind of quality to them. It was different than spirits, and I think that that's what really stuck out. And they would just appear in my room, also, you know, just as spirits would. But they would come to the front door, and they would beat on the door. And I was so scared to open the door. My mom was gone, and she was convinced that they were some kind of loan shark. So she just, I mean, so I just wanted to just make a statement, you know, that they do seem so much more physical than a spirit. You know, something else is going on. But, you know, the gift it definitely continued to get stronger. But I remember that day standing, listening to the doctors. And I was pulled out of class constantly. My poor teachers. I mean, I had meltdowns. I would see things. I would feel things. And I had beautiful early elementary teachers that were so patient with me. But I remember the day they were talking about me hallucinating, and I just kind of broke inside. I was tired of fighting them in a way, going, no, it's good, it's you know, I'm not hallucinating. And I just kind of gave up. And when I gave up, that's when things actually just went down the rabbit hole in that way. And I got very depressed. And so, you know, like any mom, especially in that time period, it wasn't that long ago, you know, it was a couple decades, but still it wasn't as progressive as things are now. So, you know, as a mom, she's like, okay, we need to get her onto medication for this depression. And it just got really worse. And I was like, I just don't want to be here anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And so they didn't know what to do with me. And so they did put me into a mental hospital. And it wasn't, I mean, I know I've been in and out working with clients that have, I even worked for a short stint in a rehab facility, and it wasn't like that. It was an actual, like, psychiatric ward. And I mean, it was horrifying because I got there and I felt like I was, you know, going to jail. They took away all my things and shoelaces because they were afraid, you know, of what happens if people have these type of things, I'm sure. And I just remember being more scared at that point than I have ever been in my entire life. And they kept upping the medication. And that's why I'm such an activist with, you know, hey, maybe your kid's not crazy, maybe they're psychic kind of business, because at one point I was on so much medication that I actually I lost my vision, my physical vision. Yeah. And all I could see was just blurry outlines of people. And I know that was because of the medication. Yeah. So I couldn't go to school anymore. They had a school inside of the hospital, but it was just, it was, you know, a horrific experience. But I look back and I go, thank God, you know, because it's helped me gain so much strength to see, you know, that in-between world of what people consider this ability to be.
Well, and that's you know, we've talked about this because it is I've only had good experiences. You've walked through this hell. I mean, to get to where you are now, and you're just a badass warrior, and you really are. And
that's what I tell people. And it's warrior training. I have no doubt.
It really is. I mean, what's the worst they can actually do to you? And I mean, and it can get pretty ugly. I get that, but it is. So you were there for how long?
You know, they ran a lot of tests on me. There was a lot of strange things that went on in that hospital, and my memory comes and goes. And so I really don't even know how long it was. It could have been only just a few months, actually. But my memory, I was on so much medication that I lost track of time. And, you know, I don't even remember being, you know, the day that they sent me home. I just remember being in my mother's bed and just kind of being so checked out. I just would stare in a catatonic state at this, you know, at her ceiling fan. I just would lay there. It was a very, very odd experience that didn't really seem to have much of a start and stop that I can remember.
Yeah. Well, the lines are so blurred on both sides.
Trauma, yeah.
Can I ask a question? Looking back on it, how many people in that psych ward do you think were having a similar experience? We're seeing other dimensions, feeling energy, and it scared them, or it was judged so harshly or medicated so heavily that it just, your psyche can't handle that.
Yeah, I think that's funny. I've thought about that because it was kind of a mosh pit of all people with different problems, but it wasn't just a drug rehab. It was an actual mental institution. So I think about these people. I remember my roommate, she was a lesbian, and that was part of the reason she was in there.
Oh,
like, how crazy is that nowadays? It's like,
oh, wow.
That's not a mental
We're going to get the lesbian out of you.
Yeah, right. So, and then she actually had made claims of rape, and then I never saw her again. So, I'm not saying, anything terrible happened to her. I just never saw her again. So that was really scary. But when I looked around at the people that were actually institutionalized there, they were good people.
Yeah.
I didn't see any problem with them. Like, they made sense to me.
Yeah.
One kid, I remember, he broke out. He actually got out of the institution, broke out, went to Subway, got sandwiches, and came back.
He came back.
Just wanted a
He
Subway
just wanted
sandwich.
A Subway sandwich.
Oh, okay. So
I mean, it was just like, what? It was just very, very... I remember watching this movie, I don't know, maybe it was like 10 years ago, called Girl Interrupted. I don't know if you guys
Angelina
have ever
Jolie,
seen that movie with Winona Ryder.
That's hard to watch.
It's really sad. I know a lot of people out there probably seen it. It's like, that was my experience. Oh, my gosh. That's it right there. Girl Interrupted.
Wow.
That's what happened.
Okay, so...
but the light came on for you. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, wait.
So
First. I'd like to ask you.
Quickly, like, it didn't even end there. So the next, the thing I talk about in the book is my mom. Again, my mother did the best that she knew how to do.
Yeah.
I really believe that. She was also an abused wife. She had a really hard time with my stepfather, who,
this whole
ended
part
up
of the book.
making leave. And so there was all of that dynamic that was going on also. And she decided to try to re-enter me into the world and put me into a private Christian school that one of her friends actually had told her about. So this is bizarre. And when I was writing this, I thought, who is going to believe all of this can happen to one human being? Like,
I do.
Who's going to believe this, right? And so I went to the Christian school, and I swear to you guys, it was like out of Twilight Zone, because I was scared, because I'm a, shy little kid, and it was new. And I walked in there, and the kids in the class looked like little robots, I'll tell you. I remember that. I remember thinking they were so pretty. They were all blonde-headed, blue eyes, looking, pretty people. I was intimidated because I'm just this frumpy-looking kid.
Yeah.
And my mom was dropping me off, and I overheard her telling this teacher about our circumstances. And she said, we have a restraining order. Bonnie's father is, he's dangerous. And so I just want you to know that we are not really disclosing where Bonnie is right now. And please, if for some reason he shows up, please call the police immediately. And she said, absolutely. We understand. She was very, very sweet, this teacher. And they shut the trailer door. This is just like a compound. Looking back, I'm like, come on, Mom.
There were signs. There were flags.
There was some flags. And so she went up to the teacher went up to the podium and introduced me. And again, I was just still so shy and mortified. And she said, let's all bow our heads in morning prayer. And she went on to pray, and she prayed several sentences. And the last sentence that she said in that prayer was, and dear Jesus, please let Bonnie's father come here and kill us all. I swear to you, I know how bizarre this sounds, so that we can go to our maker earlier. Something along those lines. But it was like, please let us die prematurely so that we can get out of here.
And you're just deer in the headlights, like, what just happened?
What the fuck?
I'm like, and I don't know if I'm naive. Well, I know I'm naive, but I wasn't even really scared. I was just kind of embarrassed that I was being brought to center of attention.
First day in class.
As odd as that sounds.
Oh, wow.
And so anyway, to hurry up and wrap up the story, what they did was they would show the whole class a series of movies around something called the Mark of the Beast. And it was a thing in the 80s where there was all these series of movies that would talk about the end of the world, the plague of locusts, microchips being inserted into people, barcoding. It was very, kind of apocalyptic before the zombie, movement. And there was just these series of movies, and we would watch them every single day, and also with some kind of bookwork. But it was a big part of the.
It had a workbook that went. A workbook that went with it. The bookwork. Oh my god.
The workbooks cracked me up because I remember asking them, is this a real textbook? Because it says very strange things. Like in the word problems, it would be like, if Jimmy and Susie didn't abide by Jesus's law, what would happen to them? I'm like, is this really a word problem?
A, go to hell.
It's very,
B.
very, very weird.
Oh, wow.
If the trajectory is 2.5 degrees. No, oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. How
Okay,
deep in hell will I end up?
And you didn't tell your mom at this point. You didn't tell her any of this.
No, I didn't, because I was acutely aware of her sensitive fragility. I mean, she had been through a lot, honestly.
Yeah.
And she was trying. And even as a little girl, I was scared to I was always in trouble. I was in trouble for making stuff up, talking to imaginary friends. Like, I was tired of being the family problem. So I just figured, I was also extremely trusting. So I just figured that this was still okay and part of the course. I didn't realize anything was wrong, believe it or not. And one day they were showing the movie again, and I can't explain it, but it was about the barcoding, where they were putting implants into people.
I remember that.
And I just lost it. I started crying, and the teachers were always so good to me. Let me tell you, I was not mistreated. They were crazy, obviously, in my opinion, obviously, but they were very, very, very loving. And the teacher assistant pulled me into another room and said to me, what's wrong? And I was, again, I was afraid to be different. I really wanted to fit in. And I told her, I kind of fibbed. I didn't want to tell her about the movie because I'd been watching it for weeks and weeks and weeks. I just said, I'm on this medication. It makes me feel funny. And, I'm scared. And I just told her all these things. And she said, oh, I know what's happening, and I know how we can help you. We need to get the devil out of you. The devil's inside. That's what happened. And the devil got in when you started taking those pills. You need to stop taking them immediately.
So she's super...
And looking back, I mean, as an adult, those are heavy antipsychotics.
Yeah.
Like, those were not... You don't just stop taking those, And so she talked to me for a while, and I was just... again, I believed her. Again, just being this kid that was very trusting, even at this point. And I remember just shrinking inside, going, great. Of course, I have the devil inside of me. What did I do wrong? I did something wrong.
Oh, and you're just
and
being...
she dismissed me back with the rest of the kids, and it was recess time, and something came over me. I didn't think. I just started running like Forrest Gump. I just started
your guide, man.
running. I don't even, I don't even really have a lot of memory in between that time. My memory is very, it has a lot of gaps in it, actually. And I just ended up in this house with this little old couple, and they were so sweet to me. And this little old man sat me down with some safety pins and some beads, and he said, it was an odd experience because nobody was talking about the elephant in the room. They were just trying to calm me down, and he was showing me how to make little tiny Indian headdresses with these safety pins, as they were saying, what's your name? Do you know your phone number? Who can we call? Where do you live? They were amazing. But so that,
wow.
So that was all of the, that was the main things that really were
But then that
in my
school,
childhood.
wait, later you did say that school got closed down as a cult, right?
Yeah, it sure did. It sure did.
And you never had to go
So
back.
I did tell my mom at that point.
You never had to go back.
My mom did not make me go back. No, she says, why, first of all, why didn't you say anything, Bonnie?
Because I get in
And
trouble.
she
Because
never
I
made me
keep
go back
saying
to that
everything.
school.
Yes.
And you don't know what gets in trouble or not because all this is so instinctive and it's just who you are. And so...
Okay, and then the light came on. I want to hear
Well,
that.
but I was
I wanna
telling
get
her
to
this
that
morning.
part.
I know. But this morning I was telling her when I read the part where you would lay outside your mama's door in the hallway and, with your head, your cheek against the door. That just broke my heart. It just, anyway. So
Yeah. Again, just I honestly, my biggest fear. If you said, Bonnie, what is your biggest fear when you were a child? And I would have told you going into protective custody, going into CPS.
Oh.
I was afraid that if I didn't take care of my mom, or my brother too, I had a little brother, if we didn't take care of her or help her or keep her balanced, she had been through a lot, that she was going to kind of go off the deep end, and then where would we be?
But you're trying to be an adult with all
Taking
of
care of
this
a mother.
extra sensory perception that nobody else can see, and they're trying to medicate that out of you, or pray that out of you, or exercise that out of you.
They just don't
and
know.
you're trying to be you. That is what a strong will you have to have survived that, and hopefully we get to the light here in a minute. And then you get to teach people with your book things like this and your teachings how to survive this, how to not even have to go through what you went through and what you've learned through all that experience.
And do you think that this is part of why you came in? I mean, do you think this part is part of your soul contract to experience
Absolutely.
all of this.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying, you know what? I share the story not for pity. I actually share this in strength and in gratitude for having gone through it, because it is part of the story. And I can't tell you how sensitive I came into this world. You say boo, and I'm out of my skin. So this slowly built on itself to the point where this was warrior training. And again, it's a part of my mission. I want to help sensitive people find their voice, find their ground, and be able to stand strong in a chaos-driven world, but without closing. Because I think what happens is there's a lot of us out there that are supremely sensitive and gifted, but we can't survive in this type of world.
Exactly.
And, you know, the casualty is that we start losing our connectors, these people that have the ability to hear beyond the veil. And that is what I think I've come here to help.
And we so
Reform or
appreciate that.
sustain.
And we have our whole Joy Tribe, who are people who are walking the spiritual path with us, and everybody's got different
Absolutely.
gifts and abilities.
Talk about what a thrilling movement.
It is, and we want to say hi real quick.
I
I'm going to
love
say a
being
quick
alive
hi.
at this time. This is awesome.
I know,
it was
front row
worth
seats.
everything. And I'll tell you what, if I look back, I don't see anything that didn't have to happen. That, you know, all of it, even down to the school. I mean, it got me off all those medications.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would have gotten
And
off
you
all
met that
those
couple.
otherwise.
And then, okay, so we're going to reach out.
We're going to say a
people
quick
are commenting.
hi to our friends who are joining us on Facebook Live. We're going to do a quick say hi. And if you guys have questions for Bonni, or if you have similar experiences, or want to get in touch with Bonni, she can help guide you through your own experiences. Or if you know people who have kids that you're like, I wonder if that's so-and-so's little boy has this experience. This might be a good book. So hi to Carrie. Carrie is our silver lining sweet Joy
Everybody's
Tribe
saying
friend.
hi to her.
Everybody's saying hi to Carrie. Yeah.
She's back.
Amanda's saying hi from the UK. Sabine, hi Donna. Amanda, Sarah, Tammy. I saw Birdie join, and Birdie,
Kathleen.
Bobby just used your hand cream.
Yeah.
No, Bobby.
Yeah, that's Birdie's.
Makes this beautiful hand lotion we gave to Bobby, and he's just now putting it on. So
Hi, Emma.
And Kathleen, hi, sweetie. Yeah, these make me wonder how children, say a century ago, who had these experiences were dealt with very intensely, I'm sure.
They were, I'm sure, intensely, and I'm sure that they were put in homes.
And hi, Emma from Belgium. We love you, Emma. Karina, Melissa, there's Birdie. Oh, we're just so happy to see everybody
Hi,
here.
everybody. Well, and I'm so happy to introduce everybody to this, and we actually do have a lot of friends in common. I've seen on Facebook Miss Bonni, and Miss Bonni, if you want to reach out to her, you can either find her on Facebook or you can go to her website, psychic, BONNI, no E.
PsychicBonnie.com.
Yes.
And Nikki Dillard is saying, hello, Bonni. She has helped me so much. I know you help so many
Hi,
people.
Nikki. Oh, I love that girl.
Oh, she loves you too.
I am so honored. I have the most love of any girl. So all of that chaos and that pain and grief, I ended up being the most loved human, I think. And I'm so blessed and so grateful. It's been a wild ride.
Okay, but
worth it.
So let's go back to that. So you got off the meds, and how long after that until you met the person that really kind of introduced you to you?
It was a long time. It was years, actually.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So I spent life just struggling, and it was my identity. I mean, literally, it was like, hi, my name's Bonni McCliss. I'm schizophrenic. How are you? Like, it became my assumed identity because at this point I figured they were right.
They know, they're doctors, right?
It was a lot, strength in numbers, kept saying this. I figured, well, that's something to that. And so, I mean, there were little moments before then, teachers that would say something else, I think you're special, or I channeled a poem that was published. A teacher helped me get it published at one point, also in the book. And so there were lighthouses along the way. But, it was actually my early adulthood. I actually had very small children. I had just recently gotten, married, and I was struggling severely with anxiety and the schizophrenia, but it was kind of boxed in because I was too scared to go to a doctor, given my background, especially therapists, because I had seen therapists my entire life and it didn't work. And so I just prayed really hard about it. And there was a series of odd synchronicities that led me to this one woman, but I reached out and I decided to give it one more shot because at this point I was having thoughts of just running my car into a tree.
Right. Yeah.
And the only thing that kept me back, for doing that with my children, I couldn't do it to my children, but if it weren't for those, babies, that I was convinced I'm not meant for this world.
You're going to tap out
in a big way. So I found this woman, and she is literally an angel on earth. Her name is Frances. And I went into her office and I just bared my soul. And I was so embarrassed. Shame, as a lot of people that will go through trauma will tell you, there's such a shame component to it. And she listened quietly. And at the very end, she only said a few sentences. She said, "Bonnie, you're not schizophrenic. There's something else going on here." And I'm waiting for, maybe I'm like bipolar or like I'm waiting for another diagnosis. And she said, "You're psychic." And I was stumped. I'm like, what?
What?
You would think it would have occurred to
I was
me,
going to say, that never
again,
occurred to
when
you
you're really
the whole
thick
time?
in it, when you're really thick in it and you can't see the forest for the trees,
Right.
you'd be surprised what kind of denial
Okay.
can do. So she worked with me. I worked with her for, I think, at least 18 months to 2 years, just slowly opening up, because I was very, very scared still, and anxious. And I guess she kept standing by this. "Bonnie, you're a natural born intuitive and psychic." She even referenced me to other psychics. She even sent me to another psychic. She's like, "I know this person, please go talk to them," which also said, "Oh my gosh, you're very psychic."
You're off the chart.
So, it was a theme that was coming up, and ultimately what actually made me believe in this, it was something really simple. My therapist looked at me one day and she said, "Bonnie, close your eyes. Tell me what my house looks like." And I said, I can't. I don't know what your house looks like. And she said, "Yes, you do." She had some gall. She was very progressive. And she said, "Hold my hand." And I was so scared I was going to get it wrong and, fall from grace in her eyes and, wanting to please people still. And I just started seeing her house, and I started describing her house to her, and even the cats and her garden. And she kept saying, "Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right." And at the end of the session, she showed me a picture, and it was pretty much what I had described.
Wow.
And that's when it clicked. And that was actually the moment where I went, okay.
How did
I
that
believe
feel
it.
to
Now what?
actually have a whole different positive
paradigm.
spin on everything you've been through? That must have been so surreal.
Yeah.
I think it would have pissed me off. Really? It's like, anyway.
I'm an incurable lover. It's
Yeah.
really hard for me to stay angry ever, which my husband may be listening right now and go, "Now there's a lie." But
You don't count.
I am just, I rebound, and I just love. I think because me, and I know that there are so many other people just like me, but we're light workers. We just channel light, and we just can't hold on to that anger or that grudge for very long.
Because it
It's not
pulls
who
you
we
down.
are.
Right, exactly. Well, that's so.
But how did that feel to have somebody and be able to validate and prove it right there? And like, oh my gosh, this is maybe a gift, not a curse.
Right. It was shocking.
I'm sure.
It was I could not believe that was, honestly, because I told her, I said, "Wait a minute, but I do this all the time." And she said, "Exactly."
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
I
that,
said, "That's my imagination." She said, "No, Bonnie, that's a series of, that's a series of psychic information." And she believed in me so much that I opened up my first practice in her office with the other therapist.
Because
In a
it's such
small
a therapeutic
town.
tool.
in a small town in the deep south.
It's such a therapeutic
Bible
tool
Belt.
to be able to
Which
help
just,
people
ran the
see.
last psychic out of town. And that's funny because people kept saying, "Bonnie, they just ran the last psychic out. There was a court case. It's still on the books. You can't do this."
What?
And I said, "Well, I'm going to proceed with so much love that if they look at me in my eyes, they will know I have nothing but love and an open heart for them. And if they want to look at me and say, 'What you're doing is wrong,' then go for it." And I'll tell you what, I have been so blessed. I am met with love and compassion and open arms and questions. I've been, done paranormal investigations in this tiny little Bible Belt. I have never met, to this date, knock on wood, any opposition. I'm very, very loved and lucky.
Wow.
But that's you, so you have the grid, and actually, Wendy and I were discussing this yesterday. So you have the grid, and you have different. They showed her this. You have different spots on the grid where we are placed to pull the light in, and there's a reason.
Right.
I've been thinking about that because you really are in a, the world that I'm in right now. People are kind of a foot in both worlds, and it's rare that I meet folks that are just really hardcore, and in their I don't know, in that place where they judge me or they
So
judge
closed
this.
down. It's
right.
not open to it at all. Yeah.
But that's part of
Right.
your badassness, is that you're sitting there going, knock, knock, knock. Hi, 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 hi. I'm out here. I'm out here. Come look. And people, and that's really tough. I think to stand up and stand in that when people just are clinging to their dogma because it's safe. And we come
Right.
in with this framework, and I think that's what scares folks sometimes with this, is that there isn't the framework. You know, Christianity,
Judaism.
yeah, thank you. It is, that's already set, and you've got millions with you. But when you go out on your own, it is scary because you really don't know. And you don't know if it's, you know, if you're making this up, if you're not. And so people, I think,
Right.
tend to want to be in that safe zone. But where I think you and I, Tiff, meet folks that are kind of already on the path a bit, you meet them when they're not on the path. And so that takes a lot of chutzpah, is that the word?
Sure.
A lot of stuff. And so I commend that.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Well, you know, if people did not validate it eventually or say, hey, Bonnie, that is what's going on in my life, I'd still think I was in my own little imagination world.
Well, it's really pretty. I see what you've
Don't have it
what
to
you've
bounce
made.
off people, you know.
But this
doesn't
is
go
what you're
anywhere.
doing full time now. You do Skype sessions with people who want to connect with their deceased family, or you're an intuitive guide, and you teach people. That's one of the first
I've
ways
been
I
in
met you.
your
Is I went to a
classes, yeah.
workshop, and you were teaching us how
Yeah.
to get our own answers and feel our own intuitive abilities and develop that for ourselves. And I've seen some of your videos on web where you.
That's my fun job.
Well, and you were teaching people on the video that I watched on the web recently. It was just teaching people how to discern their spirit guide's presence. And you said a lot of people feel it as anxiety. If somebody comes up in your space that you don't know, your body instantly feels anxious. It's like, whoa, what is that weird sensation or feeling? And we fear it. And you're teaching people to, okay, maybe the anxiety that you're feeling is your intuition or your guides trying to connect with you. And that you can flip it.
Absolutely. That's my mission.
Okay.
That literally is, you know, I feel like the highest calling is to help people connect to on their own or to their own guidance team. I mean, I really have so much passion for, I tell people all the time, I really want to work myself out of a job. Mm-hmm. I want you to be able to hear your guides, because it is just incredible when you put somebody, I often use regression or hypnosis to do an introduction to people's guides. And when they meet their guides for the first time, there's so much emotion that pours out of them. It's like a homecoming. Like, finally, I've met my other half, or, you know, I feel like now I'm whole. I don't have this missing piece. And to watch that kind of healing is, I mean, it is just the biggest blessing. And to watch women come together in these classes, I've led retreats, and it's so funny to me because these women will come together. And I was actually told at the end of my last retreat, I did a bunch of teachings on, you know, how to get into your own, intuitive gifts, and I'm big about learning, you know, teaching people how to connect with their guides and all of that good stuff. And they actually turned around and said, Bonnie, you were great and all, but the greatest thing that we got from this retreat was each other.
Yeah.
Being able to talk
exactly.
to each other, like, you just held that space. And I'm like, I'm so good with that.
Like that.
But just to watch women, because it's hard for women sometimes to get into a group. I mean, that's, you know, women are so powerful. And what I teach is how to be powerfully vulnerable.
Oh, I love
you know,
that.
powerful vulnerability. And that takes a little bit of work. And I said, you know, they're my heroes. They came to these, you know, to this retreat with people they didn't know, sharing. Some of them had only met me once and came, you know, just on a dare, probably.
On a dare.
And just the courage that it takes to expose yourself. I think that they're my heroes.
Well, you're setting the
pretty
example
incredible.
for us, dear.
You are, and thank you. You just put that piece in for me, because I was thinking about that. That it's like we make really good friends when we start something new, like when we go off to school, or when we become moms for the first time, or when we, you know, it's like we're open and we have all these new slots on our dance card in this new dance, and it is hard. I mean, I'm 40. How old am I? 47, 6, 7. Anyway,
I
and
lose
so,
count.
I know. And so at this age, it is hard to make new friends and to make good friends and deep friends, and
Right.
because we tend to hold on to all of those that we've shared, you know, all this other stuff with. And so, but that's why. It's because when we start something new, we're open because we're vulnerable. I love that.
And I think a lot of people who are stepping into their
Absolutely.
gifts are kind of actually looking at them or wanting to understand more and get on a spiritual path. It can be very isolating from maybe people you've had a long relationship with if they don't see it, not interested, not looking for it.
Or threatened by it.
Absolutely.
A lot of people
so that's
are
why
threatened by it.
that's exactly the Joy Tribe. We wanted this is a weekly conversation about all of this to try and just help people feel more normal about it and converse about it, connect with us on Facebook, tell us your experiences about it.
Oh, I'm in the middle of
Yay.
this new blossoming friendship with someone that reached out through the show, and Suzanne, she's wonderful, and it's, and there's so many of us out there, and we just connect. I mean, we just have to have that thing
And be your light in your little
in
part
your
of the
own
world.
little spot. That's
And
exactly
connect
right.
with us virtually. Yeah.
Well, Bonnie,
Absolutely.
I've been thinking about this as you're speaking. As an example, I would love and I don't know if you work with kids, but I would love for you to work with one of my kids he feels so much, and you and I touched on this, and this might be coming in another book, but it is, but he's such an empath, and everybody does tell him just
Absolutely.
kind of, put shield on, go out and put your shield on, and he doesn't put his shield on. He forgets, and I forget, and he feels everything, and he's always in trouble, and then he turns around, and just like you said, he feels so ashamed with the stuff he does.
Right.
And it's
Right.
just so, then I don't know, but I don't know if that's the type of work that you could potentially do.
Oh no, absolutely. No, that's my calling. I feel like is to really work with, definitely with adults, but I really love working with children, and I have 3 children, all have gifts and are very sensitive. But my youngest, I'm going through it all over again. She's a medium. I've been to parent-teacher conferences every day, like how to get her through the day. What do we do? Bubbles and rocks, and how do we keep ourselves, separated from this energy? I mean, she's such a trooper. She's my hero. But I feel really called to help these, because this is our world, right?
Right.
Our
Right.
children are carrying this on, and you have the indigo children and the crystal children. You have these really, really psychically gifted children who are with parents that are pretty open, in my opinion. In my experience, they're all born to these parents that, definitely went through their own hard knocks, but at least they're open-minded. Yes, I want to, Carrie, you were talking about your son, and him wanting to start his own little kind of movement in school about, being sensitive or thinking outside the box. And, I don't want that to be taboo. I want that to be a part of mainstream. We may have some work to go, but I mean, I'm going to do my best to really bring this into the mainstream so it's not so scary and taboo. I remember kids were really mean to me because, well,
You're different.
people fear what they don't understand.
Exactly. And I saw that. We were at the beach, and down the seawall walked these 3 girls, and they were probably about 13. Exact same shorts, exact same hair, exact same shirt, and I just laughed because it's like, oh, we desperately want to fit in at that age. And then there's a time,
Right.
you always have the 1 or 2 that, go purple and, black fingernails. But, okay, so what are you working on next? I mean, do you have something big coming down the pipe?
That you can share.
That you can share, maybe?
That I can share. Oh, that's so funny. That's a great. Yeah, there's some stuff that is definitely working in the background. Working on my second book, and I wrote this first book for just kind of like foundation. Like, how do we get in? Because it's not as complicated as people would think. In fact, when they overcomplicate intuition or connecting to their guides or even meditation, they block their own movement, which I describe in detail in this book. And again, this book is my baby, and boy, I went through labor pains to get it out, but I'm so grateful
Your
that it's out
baby's
there.
very beautiful.
You do have a beautiful movie.
It's the
Yes,
other
but the
side of normal. Love it.
The other,
Okay.
I love it too. I mean, and that I had no idea what I was going to write. Like, it just kind of came out. It was very much, channeled information throughout the book.
Awesome.
The next one's going to be called The Seventh Sense, the
Seventh
Omega
Sense.
Consciousness.
Oh, can you?
And that's going to get us into the grid. That's going to get us into that, that mass consciousness and interdimensional experiences and other civilizations. And this is going to get a little bit more broad on how bizarre this world and it really
Yep.
can be. But I want people to start to have this movement of thinking outside the box. So definitely working on that second book, just keeping up with interviews. I have my own private thriving practice and workshops, traveling all over the world. In a couple of weeks, I get to go to San Diego. I'm so excited. In Little Rock, I'm teaching some shamanic journey work with drumming, so that's fun. I've only done that a handful of times.
I want to go.
Some body talk. So basically,
that's a lot.
Whatever the need
and
is,
your
I just
mama.
kind of show up and become a vessel.
How do we find out about that? Because I really would like to go to that if there's space.
Yeah. Well, most of the stuff will end up being on the website, and I will be at the Little Rock, Arkansas Collective yoga studio next week, and it's going to be. I'm doing readings and sessions and private readings from mediumship, psychic, hypnotherapy all week long, which I'm pretty sure that's booked right now. And then the workshops, I think there's a couple spots left. If anybody wants to go to Hot Springs, I'll tell you what, it's just, you're sitting on a bed of crystals. There's nothing cooler.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've heard that. And that's
So all that stuff on Facebook and website for sure.
And New York, weren't you in New York, or you're going to New York?
Yes.
Is that coming up?
Yes, I'm so blessed. And let me just be very clear, like, this is my clients getting me to these places. This is not my organization skills. No, this is my client saying, Bonni, I love you, I love your message, and I want to share you. So if it wasn't for my clients, there would be no getting off the ground. So I'm so full of gratitude. But I just came back from New York a couple of months ago from a lovely lady who is also a metaphysical mom, starting her own initiative and meditation studio. Just said, I'm going to do this. This is my purpose. And I'm so incredibly proud of her. And I was able to sit through some of her meditation classes and actually go further than I've been in a long time through meditation.
Oh, wow.
So it's just these moms. This is what's happening. These moms are saying, let's make a movement, and I just show up. So, yeah, I've been all over the place. I miss Texas. I got to get back there.
We do. Okay. You haven't been here in a while.
On the list.
Okay, I was thinking about that.
I haven't.
So I remember we did the ghost hunt in those townhouses, and then once
that's
she
right,
got to spend the night
Wine
with me,
and
we had a
spirits.
slumber party. Yeah, wine and spirits. We had a slumber thing at my house, and then how many times have you been here? 3 or 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Three or four, and we haven't
miss you.
touched a lot on the paranormal side or the mediumship, but that seems to be so great out there because you have rich history.
We do. We
out
really
in Houston.
and in
Yeah, it's
Galveston, too.
amazing.
Well, that is that's so exciting. You're just doing so much cool stuff.
Okay, can I get a sneak peek of your seventh sense being on the grid? Because Carrie had told me that you're able to kind of be interdimensional. You're finding yourself being able to exist and perceive interdimensionally now.
Truly.
And we got about 5 more minutes. I just want to see if you can get a sneak peek into what that's like, what's coming for us as humans as we're evolving these visions, this expanded awareness of what's really going on out there.
So, yeah, it's juicing up. Of course, this time that we're in is unprecedented. Of course, a lot of us have heard about the 2012 and the shift and this new birthing, of consciousness that we're going into. And so for quite some time now, I have been having, interactions with, definitely my guides, but then they're getting even more, I could say pushy, but that's not very nice. Pushy. They're getting more clear with me.
Insistent.
So I'm having dreams all of the time on a weekly basis of what's to come, what's to expect. I used to do a lot of world predictions. In fact, I went to a therapist for that too when I was younger, and I wrote a poem about Nostradamus that's actually in the book when I was 13.
Mm-hmm.
And so the channeling is starting to come in stronger and stronger. And there's these beings, you can call them guides, you can call them light beings, you can call them ETs, whatever you want to call them, that are very, very intent on getting us all to raise consciousness and to connect on this grid. And the way they've made me understand it, which is so much to fit in, but I'll just kind of make it short and sweet, is that we're all connected in this matrix. And they showed it to me in a way that it's like a net around our planet. And each intersection, each little pin of light is a soul. And as we are all pinned together, this matrix of light that surrounds this planet, we can move, as one. We can keep evolving. This is a part of our evolution. We're waking up to it. We've always known it, but we're waking up. And the way they explained it to me is that there's gaps in this network. There are black holes where some of the lights have gone out, not through death, but through giving up, or just, look at our Middle East, look at our world right now, just through complete absence of light. And some of us are, the light workers, we're like little lighthouses on this grid. And we have to get stronger. And we have to spread the word and send this message out. And it's funny because if I'm having a hard day or if I'm having a pitiful moment and I need a pity party, I don't get one. I go to my guides and I pray and I meditate and I'm saying, this is so hard. I don't know if I can keep going. I don't know who you think I am, but I'm not Joan of Arc. And this is what I'm told. I love you. Get stronger.
That's it.
So it is essentially like a spiritual war out there. I mean, I would have not believed it had I not been seeing it, night after night in these dreams. So this book is going to kind of be about how to navigate that and where do you fit in that grid? What's your journey? What's your plan? And if you're listening to this radio station, I'd be willing to bet that you're one of those light workers I'm talking about.
Oh, I love
those
that.
light warriors.
I
know you ladies are for sure.
Thank you, Bonnie. You know what? It's so funny because Wendy said this. You
We're hearing this from many places.
But Wendy said this to me yesterday. She talked about the grid and all the little light spots that are people. So I've had this now twice in 2 days. So I got to pay attention.
Wow.
I got to pay attention.
Wow.
I can't wait for your book to come out.
Well, it's interesting because I'll be just going along shopping for groceries, and all of a sudden the grocery store will disappear. And I'm somewhere else. There's something else going on, and it happens just in a moment of time. But it's like sometimes I'm bleeping in and out of reality, which I like very, very, very focused on staying grounded because I don't want to go anywhere too soon or be more of a space cadet than I am. But that's happening, and that's happening to so many more people than just me. I mean, I'm getting clients constantly going, Bonnie, am I losing my mind? I'm seeing pixels in the sky. I'm seeing, these
glitches,
these craft in the sky, or I'm seeing these light beings standing by my bed. Am I losing my mind? Nope. And I think that this is just going to start happening more and more.
So cosmic disclosure, love it. And they were talking.
Oh yeah, definitely. So proud of those men. Talk about courage.
Aren't they great? And that is now this
is
something Tiffany and I are.
This is on Gaia Network.
And they were saying so. They were asking Corey Good if we will actually have contact and how that's supposed to look. And he Corey said that first they will reach out to our higher selves to see if we're prepared, and then they will work with our higher self to actually meet us, to prepare us. So they'll start coming
That's
to
exactly
us
how it works.
through dreams.
That's exactly right.
He said,
and if you're getting
dreams.
closer to that higher self, where you're integrating your higher self, then it's just point-on-point contact.
Oh, isn't that cool? So there's so much.
There's
brewing.
so much, Bonnie. We're going to have you back because we're having to wrap up our show
Absolutely.
here already.
Yay,
but we
thank
want
you for having me on. This has been so fun, so exciting.
Yeah, thank you for everybody who has joined us here and tuned in. And Terry Stewart saying Bonnie is a gift. She must be a client of yours. Gordon, Heather, Joanne. Hi, Melissa. We love that you guys are on this.
Hi, Melissa.
Souls. Look at them. I love them.
We love that you're on this journey with us, and hopefully you can relate to this. We just can't say enough about Bonnie's new book. It's not expensive. It's a quick, easy read. You can get it on Kindle. You can order it. It's The Other Side of Normal, a survival guide for living in the intuitive age. And there's so many aha moments in there for me.
Yeah.
And validation of, that's a neat way to look at this. So you can find Bonnie. Her website is psychicbonni.com, psychicbonni.com. And you're available for online Skype sessions. And you just mentioned all these different venues that you're going to be appearing at. So there's lots of ways to connect with Bonnie.
Well, and I would like to say that a lot of this I know, but to hear it from your perspective and to hear how you come to these different ideas, there's so much there. I mean, I just couldn't put the book down. It's amazing. So there really is
great. That's
something
wonderful.
for everybody.
Oh, I'm so grateful.
And I just want to say thank you for
fantastic.
being the light, because there were many points in there that you could have easily dimmed the light and stayed dark and not stepped into this, but
Right.
your will to be the light has just kept you coming back and finally turned around. I wish you could go back and tell all those teachers that who you are and what they were dealing with, and but you're doing that for the next generation.
My dream.
So thank you.
Well, you helped me get here. I
Thank
mean,
you
this
for
is,
being your light.
You were instrumental in me waking up and stepping onto my path. And so I will always,
Carrie,
you'll always
thank
be with
you.
me for that.
I'm so honored to be in your life, both of you. You guys are doing such great work. I'm just,
We're going to say goodbye,
honored
and
to
we
be a
will
part of it.
connect with
Thank
you
you.
again soon. Thank you for joining us. JoyRide
All right,
Show.
thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a
Wonderful.
great week.
All right, talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye, Bonnie.
Some green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful